This is it. There's only a few days left. The future of Dungeons & Dragons is in your hands. A new version is coming to us in 2 years. And how the version looks is up to us.
On today's video, we are going to tear through this survey. We're going to find out if the information that Wizards is collecting from us is worthwhile, if it's going to properly shape the next not edition of Dungeons & Dragons. You can consider this our official Basic Liches feedback to your Unearthed Arcana, Character Origins and Backstories playtest material. We're not going to go over every race here because frankly there's not a ton of stuff to really talk about. The elephant in the room. We are adding a new playable race besides orcs to the PHB. We're getting Ardlings. What in Orcus's dick is an Ardling? An Ardling is essentially some sort of celestial being that seems to have like a humanoid body and then the face/mask of any animal.
Yeah, it's that of an animal. This reminds me a lot of Egyptian mythology. We have Ra, we have Horus, who is a falcon. We have Anubis, who is a hound. You know, they're people with anthropomorphic features, basically just their heads.
Oh man, is this stupid. This is dumb. Definitely comes across as like, hey, we got this virtual tabletop coming, and you're going to want to customize your miniature, especially if you're an Ardling, because we've got 57 different animal heads for only $1.99 per head. These things have never existed in Dungeons & Dragons before. You're literally just plucking them out of nothing. You've made something up. And yeah, it also seems like their lazy attempt to just be like, oh, you want to be a cat person? You could be an Ardling. Oh, I want to be a dog person. No, well, we don't have shifters in there, so you can be an Ardling. Well, I want to be a turtle. Well, we don't have turtles in the player's handbook, but you can be an Ardling. You get what I'm saying?
It can be any animal, man, person, woman you can be.
They want to know what we think of Ardlings. Are we satisfied with them? No. Let's go with very dissatisfied with Ardlings.
Very
They
dissatisfied.
suck and they're weird. We got to talk about humans because, hey, guess what? In this next version of Dungeons & Dragons, humans are still boring as all get out. When you're dealing with orcs and Ardlings and tieflings and gnomes, these are fantasy races that have make-believe powers.
They're fantastical.
Fantastical things built into their backgrounds and stories and histories. What do humans got? Just our good looks and YouTube channels. Maybe something with like an unbreakable will, you know, the human spirit.
Yeah.
Anything. Think of something other than just being like, oh, you get another feat. And then you also get you're inspiring every time you wake up.
You inspire everybody.
It's so stupid. That's dissatisfied.
I've got beef with Dragonborn, but I love Dragonborn characters. My issue with the Dragonborn character in general, in 5th edition, is that the breath weapon was absolutely amazing at early levels. And then after level 3, you never see it again. They did change it to scale better, but I would rather see it as a bonus action because I just see a Dragonborn just always using it in the middle of combat, whether they're a barbarian or whether they're a wizard. They just cast a spell and then they're like, wah! Like, why the hell not?
It's pretty much why you're playing the character, right? You want
Yeah.
to be a dragon person.
You either make it a strong action or you make it a weak bonus action.
Why is the movement speed of these small little creatures 30 feet now?
Well, they could just move their legs really fast.
It's anatomically and physiologically inconceivable! I also don't like with the dwarf that they have this built-in sort of, oh, your god makes you good with these random items like smithy tools and mason tools or jeweler tools. Why? Why are we still, it's 2022, why are we resting on our laurels of the most generic-ass high fantasy tropes? That's all a dwarf is just a grumpy person that lives under a mountain.
And can make things.
And can make things at an anvil.
I don't like that they tie it to what should be almost kind of a background, right? For them, yes, dwarves are known for being those heavy, crafty, tied to the iron, tied to the stone. It's in their blood. Why can't you do that through the backgrounds? If someone does want to create that dwarfiest dwarf who is the forgiest dwarf, have him pick the blacksmith background or something.
We are now at question 23 with, how satisfied were you overall with the character background section as presented in the article?
Why are you asking the overall question first about character backgrounds? But that question in itself doesn't help. Like, what data is that? Because there's some pieces of the character backgrounds that I feel like, meh. And there's other pieces of the character backgrounds that I absolutely love. I think they're great changes.
Same. All right, so the first thing we have here is background features, ability scores. You now get your ability score increases from your background instead of from your race. That makes perfect sense from a thematic standpoint. If you grew up being an acolyte or a soldier, you're probably going to have a different set of skills than someone that grew up as a farmer or an entertainer or criminal. I like that. And I like that backgrounds are more important because it gets your players to want to focus on them more. So they'll build a little bit better and tighter backstories.
And then going with creating your own background first option, I feel like is a great move forward to be able to tell the player how to create their backgrounds and then just give them examples of what the backgrounds are like. Because players could just add the ability score to what they want and say, this is my version of an entertainer. It doesn't have to be exactly what they laid out as an entertainer.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
That's right. A stripper has a different set of skills than someone that is playing guitar in crowded arenas. But they're both entertaining people.
Advantage on grappling poles.
Don't judge. Next thing it's going to ask us about is skill proficiencies through your backgrounds. Again, I think this is great. I think this makes perfect sense that the skills you learn are from your background. I like it a lot. I've played other systems that are not Dungeons and Dragons, and your career or your background or your job has a much greater emphasis on who you are as an adventurer, and I think that is a neat concept and one that I'm very excited to see for this next edition. We got tool proficiencies, which I think, again, makes sense to have that tied to your background, not necessarily your race or class. Maybe your class makes a little bit more sense too, but I like it. All right, we got languages. Yeah, sure, you get languages from your background, I guess. You learn a common language and a rare language. This is also on top of the language that your race can speak. So at first level, almost every single character in the game can potentially speak 3 languages. You know what I say to that? Read between the lines. If you have a group of power gamers, session 0, hey, here's what we do, guys. There's 5 of us. We each get 3 languages each.
You got Draconic? All right, cool.
We go through every single language in the game, and we make sure that we can speak every one of them between us.
Yeah.
Broken.
Background features feats. This is probably my favorite change. I've always thought that 5th edition was lacking personality. Your character feeling special. The addition of the first level feats and leveled feats in general, I'm super excited for, and I can't wait to see more of that.
Looking at those feats, they really did a good job of making them all seem somewhat useful and less of them are a trap. For instance, if you were playing 5th edition for the first time and you were a variant human and you were like, oh, I'm going to take the healer feat because I'm a cleric. I should heal stuff, you know? And then you actually read what that does. Well, it doesn't help you so much as someone that can already heal.
Yeah, it's like your action could already be used better to just cast a spell that you had, or you can make a medicine check.
Whereas in the healer feat in this new edition, with this playtest material, you get to re-roll ones that you, with your healer's kit, or if you cast a spell to heal someone. That's pretty great in that level, and just at level 1.
For first level, that's a great first level feat.
Yes. Bravo. Really well done. I love the new feats.
I think very satisfied for me.
Very satisfied.
Some of these sections, just like the character races, they ask us questions, very specific questions about, how we think each individual feat, race, character background is. I mean, we don't feel that informed enough, having not played a campaign with this type of material. We have opinions, but even if we play tested this between September 1st and September 15th, how is that even enough information for us to...
It's such a small sample size.
If
like
it's good or not?
Yeah, how are you going to understand, like, if you took the farmer background, and were you playing for 15 days straight, and you're just like, yeah, that made My character is so good. Do you play with feats using 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons? Yes, always, because they're the only way to make your characters unique.
Again, this is a really, that shouldn't have, why did we need that? We already know that like 90% of players use feats.
All right, we are going to tear it down into the actual meat and potatoes of this thing, the rules that they're changing in One DnD. Hey, how do you guys feel about taking tests? The One DnD Character Origins and Background Survey wants to know how we feel about getting rid of ability checks, saving throws, and attack rolls, and replacing them with tests.
The D20 Test. As a Dungeon Master, I love the division between each of these concepts. I love it because I like to let my players know how they're being affected. When I'm calling for things on the fly, improving, I know what to do. And yes, you can just say, make a D20 test for everything. Mm-hmm. But then my players don't know what's happening. If something in the game affects D20 tests, it affects all 3 of the rolls. This is the first time where I think, why are you saying that this is backwards compatible to 5th edition? Because if those 3 checks are all the same check, you're going to change a lot.
And I'm also going to throw shade because from here on out, for the rest of the rule sets that they provided, they intermittently use ability scores, saving throws, and tests.
As terminology.
Yeah. Throughout the rest of the document. I'm trying to wrap my head around how they want tests to work. I think it's just a terminology change. Mm-hmm. I think it's as basic as that.
Yeah.
I get that it's easier to have one word for all of it. It also has its own shortcomings for me.
For me, I'm a tester. Needs more testing. 2 weeks. I think after this closes, I'll be able to give my honest opinions on it, which kind of sucks. Okay. What is the question about the Grapple Condition?
Do we like it? Are we satisfied with the new Grapple Condition?
You've buffed it a bit, right? You've given it some more versatility. You're debilitating the creature that you grab. I guess it's great for the melee character that runs in, grabs a powerful character, so that can kind of neuter their attacks.
Sure. It gives you more tactical options, right?
Yeah.
You can also move with them. That's kind of fun because you could move over to a cliff and then shove them and then shove them off.
So to get out of the grappled condition, they have a escape DC, which is kind of, again, going against the D20 test.
Yep.
Because now we have something else.
So they're trying to buff strength as an ability score because
Yeah.
there's not a lot that it does in current 5th edition. Dexterity is like the super stat. Yeah, we're satisfied with grapple. How about that? We now have incapacitated as a condition. Let's see what we got here. While you are incapacitated, you experience the following effects. Inactive. You can't take actions or reactions. No concentration. Your concentration is broken. Speechless. You can't speak. Surprised. If you are incapacitated when you roll initiative, you have disadvantage on the roll.
I agree with all of this except for you can't speak. I'd like to know the reasoning of why you can't speak. Yeah, I get it. You're unconscious or incapacitated or whatever. If you're incapacitated and dying, you want that character to have like their last words or to tell you the last important message that they needed to get to you before they die. And sure. Having that thing in rules as written,
specifically say
they can't speak, and be like, oh, you can't speak. You just die. Like, I hate that. I think that's the dumbest thing.
I don't like the surprised aspect of it, where you get disadvantage on the initiative roll. You're incapacitated. You should just be like at the bottom of initiative, I guess. I know you don't totally agree with it, but dissatisfied. I feel like we've said enough crap to be angry about. They want to know how we feel about the new long rest, which is not really new. It's just sort of fully explained what it actually is. Yeah. This is very explicit about what constitutes as a long rest. I like that. I do love the fact that you can now be interrupted and you no longer get the effects of the long rest.
Yes.
If combat happens to come along.
We have done that as a house rule.
Sure.
But again, I feel like that is a very universal house rule that's been used.
Yeah, codifying it is the way to go. So overall, long rest. Let's give that the old, I'm very satisfied.
Yeah.
Okay, you're satisfied?
Very. Slowed condition? I kind of like that it's back.
I like it a lot, actually. It's like being able to give a character difficult terrain as a condition.
I like that it's more than just movement debilitation, though. It is.
Yes, it's got some. Your
you know,
attack rolls have advantage. Yep.
Yes. I think that's the biggest piece of this that makes that condition great.
And it's tactically interesting. It sounds like they're trying to add more ripples and crunchiness to the combat tactics. So
I like that.
slowed, very good. Very satisfied with that little guy. Unarmed Strikes. The Unarmed Strike is now a little bit stronger. I think it should be even more stronger. Like the Dragon Breath, this doesn't look like it's going to scale well.
Yeah.
I think that your damage should be 1 plus your strength modifier plus your proficiency bonus, so that it scales with you as you level up.
Proficient in those fists.
Basically, the way that it works now is when you unarmed strike somebody using your strength modifier and your proficiency bonus, you get 3 options. You get to just damage them outright, you can grapple them, or you can shove them. Little tasty tidbits to those melee classes. Okay.
They need more of it.
It needs a little bit more. I think the damage needs to be bumped up a little bit. If you're like a level 20 barbarian, you should be able to just punch like a common person to death immediately. Unarmed strikes are we're satisfied with those. They could be a little bit more improved.
Yeah, but it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Or maybe tweak that like escape DC. That's kind of a weird thing that everyone has to know now. Is that going to be on a new character sheet?
We have D20 tests and escape DCs.
Yeah, let's talk about those spell lists. We got Arcane, Divine, and Primal spells all on their fancy lists now.
Looking through the lists, we're seeing holes in cantrips in some of the first level spells, and we're thinking that they might be included in some of the class features as having their own spells, giving them a little bit of
Uniqueness.
Yeah, a little bit of unique personality to spells that only they can cast. Sometimes I do feel like when playing a different class from someone and we can do a lot of the same spells, I feel like, what was the point of even making this separate character, even in 5th edition?
Yeah.
And
agree.
They're even coming closer to this,
Yeah.
where you're just going to be Arcane pool with another class that's in the Arcane pool. And you're just going to make different selections each day about what spells you are both going to use. And you're going to be like, oh, hey, are you going to pick this today? No, I guess a paladin and the cleric are going to be together, talking about what they're picking. And the bard and the wizard are going to be coordinating what they're picking today. Or like, I don't know.
It future-proofs the game. So if they add new character classes moving forward, they just have to point them towards one of these 3 spell lists. That's why they're doing it. I'm going to go with not sure, don't know, because it requires more playtesting for me to really feel any which way about it.
Yeah.
Again, this seems like something that was done more for game designers, as opposed to players. How satisfied are you with the elements of the D20 test as presented in the article? So the very first thing it wants to know about is rolling a 1. If you roll a 1 on the D20, the D20 test automatically fails regardless of any modifiers to the roll. A lot of Dungeon Masters already play with this rule. I definitely do. I don't really have much of an issue with this.
The only issue against this is in regards to new Dungeon Masters who are learning the systems, just for freedom of new Dungeon Masters, really.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. You want that wiggle room, right?
Yeah.
To
Otherwise, as stated, I don't have much of a problem with it.
flip side of that coin is that criticals on D20 tests, rolling a natural 20 on the die, succeed no matter what the modifiers are and no matter what the DC was. I really dislike this. I do not like having this. Why have difficulty classes that go above 20? If your DC is 30 and they just, you have the barbarian who doesn't know anything about Arcana or whatever, he's like, I'm going to make an intelligence check to try to figure out these runes. And you say, yeah, sure, go for it. 20. You actually happen to know exactly what all these runes over here say.
5% chance.
5% chance to do anything that you provide them with the chance to make that roll. I do not like this at all. I really don't like having this. What do we got? Rolling a 1, dissatisfied, satisfied?
Sure, satisfied.
Rolling a 20, I'm very dissatisfied. Oh, we gotta get to the critical hits. The most fun part of Dungeons & Dragons is causing us to have Ajita.
They are restricting critical hits to weapon and unarmed strikes.
No more spells critting.
No.
Not that was a big issue before. What is there?
There's 16 spells that crit, so it's not a massive impact on spellcasters.
But it's a boost to melee. Reading between the lines of everything that they're putting out in this playtest, you can see that they're trying to give boosts to those fighter classes.
They are. The terminology explicitly states that your monsters can't crit anymore.
Ooh. It's not the tacos, boy.
There is a reason why we allow the monsters to crit. And in my games, that reason is because the players can't have those high highs without those memorable moments of the low lows. They remember them just as much.
It seems like they want to neuter the danger level of early levels. That's what Jeremy Crawford says. He thinks that criticals are too dangerous at lower levels because they can kill your characters outright if you go so deep into the negatives. So get rid of that rule. This is going to make your players not be smart. They're going to be brash. They're going to be bold. They're going to be doing things that you're like, why are you trying that?
Because we have advantage in every single roll, and you can never crit.
I will only be okay with this if you're looking at this as just one part of a playtest, because they are not only remaking the player's handbook, but they are also redoing the monster manual, which needs an overhaul because the monsters in 5th edition are problematic in that they're boring as hell to run. So the flip side of this is that your dungeon masters can't crit. So how they fix that is that if you have a recharge ability, rolling that natural 20 causes that recharge ability to pop off, and you can now use it again without having to roll a 5 or 6.
They stated in the interview with Jeremy Crawford that their idea was that those recharge abilities act as those powerful repercussions and those ooh, this is dangerous moments, right? But
and it's something you as a dungeon master get to choose when to do.
Yeah, but that's not exciting to me, and I don't think that's exciting to the players that the DM has chosen it. Actually, when the DM has chosen it, it's annoying to the players.
Yeah, they
They're
usually...
like, oh, you used it because it was up. Oh, he casts it again.
Yep.
The recharge ability.
Cool, because the recharge abilities are usually like crazy powerful.
Yeah. Rather, when you roll in front of the players and they see that you crit, they're like, oh, it wasn't you. It was fate. It's not your fault.
The dice don't lie.
You can always put blame on the dice.
I think every single monster in the monster manual needs to have a recharge ability so that this rule makes sense. Yeah. And I don't think that this rule is going to make it to final. I really don't think it. There's a lot of backlash against it. This, to me, is a critical miss.
But overall, with most of these changes, player power is growing.
Critical hits. We're going to go with very disappointing. Very dissatisfied. Question 37. How satisfied are you with the elements of inspiration as presented in the article? I don't like the way 5th edition handles inspiration now. I think it's very underused, and I realize that that's what they're trying to fix with this. But I think that they have overcorrected it way too far in the other direction where you're gaining inspiration all the time. You can't have it both ways.
No.
You can't have it be up to GM's discretion and every single time you roll a 20. You
can only have one at a time. So if you hit a critical again, you can hand it off to somebody else. Again,
I hate that too.
Because there's no really any good role play explanation for that happening.
It's like, you did something so badass, I'm inspired by you now.
And you're just going to continue saying that. The whole party's going to be like, well, I was inspired by what you just did. Well, I was inspired by what?
I really dislike it. It almost feels like a board game mechanic at this point. It doesn't seem like something that fits in a role-playing game.
Yeah.
If you're gaining inspiration with a 20, you're losing it when you roll a 1.
That just makes more sense. Or when the monsters crit on you, you lose your inspiration.
I don't want to get into game design right now, but how hard would it be to make an inspiration chart for every class that's just like a 1d12, and when you do something that's inspiring, you roll on that d12, and it's like you get that perk. Like if you're a cleric, the next battle you have or whatever, you get to, all of your heals, you get to roll double healing.
Or even on any kind of inspiration chart for all characters.
Yeah, have a basic one.
Just roll on it. You can give them inspiration, and then they can roll on the chart themselves. Maybe they get healed, or maybe they get some kind of boost, or, you know, mechanically, I feel like they would use it instantly.
Yep.
They wouldn't be hanging on to it. They have to use it instantly, right? And we can still continue to use it in the way that we have been. Because in the new implementation, I'm not going to do both.
The only way to lose inspiration is if you sleep. So that actually means you can carry it over from session to session if you are in the middle of a dungeon and you haven't slept.
It's the long rest, right, that removes the not short rest. So you can continue it through short rests.
I
But
believe
as soon as
so.
you have long rest, then you are uninspired once you fall asleep.
Yep. Stupid.
Sleep really.
Unless you're a human, every day you wake up and you can just inspire someone because you're the most inspiring race ever. We're not a plague to this planet. Question 39 talks about the elements of long rest. We already talked about it. We're satisfied with it, right?
Yeah.
They've implemented a small change to tool proficiencies that allows you to use your proficiency bonus, but you can also get advantage on the roll if the skill that you're using is something you're also proficient in. For example, let's say you have a +2 for your proficiency and a +4 in your dexterity, and you're using your thieves tools. So you're going to get a +6 to that roll, and then if the dungeon master's like, well, you know, you're going to try to disarm this trap. I need you to give me a sleight of hand check. Well, I happen to be proficient in sleight of hand. So you get a +6 to the roll, and you have advantage on it.
I feel like advantage in proficiency, I mean, just kind of makes that you never fail at these things.
And I get it. It's going to reduce those moments where you feel bad playing your character.
Yeah.
You know, like, how come the barbarian, we had to have him kick in the door, even though we have a thief in the party and I should be picking the lock. Yeah. But I fail constantly at picking the locks. So now the barbarian just kicks down the door. You feel bad when that stuff happens. Yeah. So I get why they're trying to boost this up a little bit, so you don't have those moments where you're like, my character sucks at doing things that they should be good at.
Even when they have the right tools. But it's not that bad. I guess it's not that bad. And that's it. Our opinions have been sent to the nether, to the D&D gods of old, to decide on what is right and wrong. We urge you to send your opinions before September 15th, before this all ends. Read those rules if you care. Try them out. We're going to try to play test as best we can within the 2 weeks that we have, and let them know what you think.
Overall thoughts on the survey, on the first Unearthed Arcana of One DnD.
Some things I loved, some things were meh, some things really think they should go back to the drawing board on.
I think that their hearts are in the right place, and I think for an initial playtest, I think it was very cunning of them to put some pretty big changes in there.
Yeah, just to see people's reactions,
Yes.
right?
I'm not buying the compatibility thing, man.
Yeah, we don't see it.
I mean, you're changing what things are called.
Yeah, terminology
is changing. There's going to be lists of errata for those like Cleric of the Grave domains or whatever.
Oh, instead of nullifying monster crits, it's
now
going to give you inspiration now.
Yeah, sure. There's going to be that, and there's going to probably be like a 1 to 5 page thing of how you convert a 2014 PHB character into a One DnD character. Because you're not going to be on the same playing field in terms of power level.
No way. There's a huge player power level increase with only this first piece.
We haven't even seen what they're doing with character classes. We hope you enjoyed this video. Give us a like, give us a comment, give us all the goodness. We liches over here love hearing from you guys down in that comment section.
We want to know what you think about all these changes. Let us know if you think we're wrong. Don't forget to subscribe. Toll the Dead, and we'll see you next time.
Later, liches.
Later.